What's up, pals? I am here to share a bunch of cool underrated sets in DPP Ubers because my goal is to make it so those interested in playing this wonderful tier do not just copy others' teams and get out there and play. That can be a lot of fun, but it's a lot more enjoyable if you're making your own stuff. So I wanted to make it easier by offering some options that you're not really going to be seeing anywhere else, whether you're perusing tournament replays or others' teams or anything like that. So hopefully this gives you a little push in that direction. And it's probably going to happen for the enterprising among you. You're going to see sets like these, and then you're going to start playing, and you're going to see something that I haven't, and you're going to say, oh, you know what? It's really a good idea to put 36 defense EVs on Rayquaza. That's a complete game changer. I made that up, but, who knows? Try it out. So that's the goal of this. Right now it's September 2021, so you can actually go on the main Showdown server and ladder in DPP Ubers, as I already have done way too many times. And I am looking to host a tournament, hopefully in the near future, that features DPP Ubers, and I'm trying to figure out how to make some sort of stipulation where the players are actually building their own teams. It's not going to be nearly as fun as if it's just a bunch of recycled stuff. So I'm still figuring that out, but the basic idea is that, sometimes it's hard to make your own teams in non-OU tiers of past generations. Well, OU tiers too, but those at least have a lot of resources, whereas there are still a lot of resources for the non-OU tiers, but, we need as many as we can get. So here I am offering more DPP Ubers goodness, because this tier is just the best. Even laddering can't make me hate this tier. It's just that perfect. So yeah, hopefully this helps you out. Now, I've gone over some stuff I think is underrated in my other DPP Ubers videos before, so just peruse on the channel and you'll come across them. Like in recent videos, then I mentioned stuff I used in my UPL tournament battles, stuff like Pursuit Darkrai. Not all this is necessarily a set I invented, by the way. I just want to get that disclaimer out there because it's very important. So, whoever invented a set is very nebulous a lot of the time. So please don't hear this as me claiming I invented all this genius stuff. Although if you want to blame me for coming up with these awful sets that are going to lose you games, then, feel free. Anyway, so stuff I used in that video, like the Pursuit Darkrai, which is really cool. I think Highlord came up with that. And a bunch of other stuff like the Modest Mewtwo and stuff that's failing me off the top of my head. But you can go to that video and my other DPP Ubers videos. So I'm not going to go over anything in this video that I haven't in another. So, in detail anyway. I may have given Scarf Stealth Rock Diaga a passing mention or something. But this video is entirely for new sets that I have not covered in my recent DPP Ubers coverage. So I think that's basically everything. And I think this video is going to be useful even if, by the time when you're listening to it, it becomes dated. Like, it's no longer September 2021 and the DPP Ubers is not on the ladder anymore. Or maybe that awesome tournament I talked about has already passed. You should still enjoy this video. One, because you like falling asleep to my voice, which really, it's an honor. Or because you still love DPP Ubers and you just want to play it for fun because a tournament is coming up, or you just love good tiers. So, here we go. We are starting with Stealth Rock Scarf Diaga. This one's pretty simple. Scarf Diaga is one of the best Pokemon in the tier. It's consistently really good. Gets a lot of free turns when it pivots into Giratina Shadow Sneak and Kyogre and a bunch of other stuff. Grass Knot from Lottie's. You don't want to switch into Thunder too much because Paralysis will ruin the Scarf, but generally gets in really easily. It threatens the opponent. And early game, then you're often going to, Draco Meteor, and yeah, a lot of teams are not going to switch into Draco Meteor really well, especially if you're modest, which I do recommend on Scarf Diaga most of the time. But you're also likely going to thud into Bronzong or something against a lot of other teams. So you can just plop Stealth Rock on it, get up rocks early, and then come back and play like a regular Scarf Diaga later on. It's really easy to use and really effective. It's particularly nice with so like let's say you're using an offensive team with Deoxys Speed or Frostlass or some other, or Dexys Attack or some other spiking lead. Now you can run the spiking lead completely dedicated to spiking. So if you're running DOS, you don't need to put Stealth Rock on it. Because you can, Diaga is going to be a reliable Stealth Rocker no matter what. So you can plop it on it even if it's running Scarf and still reliable. So spikes early on, then rocks, and then your Scarf Dracos are really going to be raining death on the opponent even more easily because you've guaranteed your hazards by spreading them onto 2 different Pokemon and not really losing much by doing it. You know, because if you're Dracoing against a very healthy team early in the game, then you're not going to be doing much. But by Stealth Rocking against such teams, then you are letting yourself get as many hazards as possible with which you can overwhelm them. So Thunder versus Fire Blast is just whether you're running this on Rain or Sun. The EVs outrun Mewtwo, and then some extra bulk. It's really nice. I mean, if you want to run Timid, that's totally up to you. It's fine. This is really just for the rocks and the Scarf Dialga. Now, this next Dialga is not one fixed set. It's more of a testament to the many, many options Dialga can run. I wanted to explore a few of them. Adamant Orb is really cool on mixed sets. Like I really like mixed Dialga in general. Now this is a very standard set, but I wanted to highlight it. Now I know we went over this in the team video, so I'm not specifically saying use this Dialga set. I'm saying that look at you start out with this set and then start thinking about all the options you have. For example, it doesn't need all 4 of these moves. Outrage can easily become Stealth Rock. It doesn't need Adamant Orb. It can run Custat Berry, Chople Berry if Lucario's being a pain, Shuka Berry for various Earthquake, Leftovers, Life Orb is really good. So Lumberry if you're really being irritated by Thunder Waves like from other Dialgas. So I just really wanted to mention that. Stealth Rock doesn't have to be Stealth Rock or Outrage. It can be Thunder as well if you're really trying to rip through things no matter what the weather is. The options are, it can be T-Wave also, I did that one, and yeah, this is just a general all-purpose, all-out attacking Dialga. It can Rocks, it doesn't have to, it can T-Wave, it can run whatever coverage you want, whatever item you want. I mean, I've even thought about things like Roap and Jaboka Berry, just because sometimes Dialga has this tendency to, it trades with something and it then goes down to low health, and gets finished off before you send in your next thing, and that's still fine because Dialga still accomplished a lot before it went down. But I was thinking, how can you get even more out of Dialga, even when it's just being finished off? And that's where Roap and Jaboka Berry come in. It's like, oh well, Latios is going to finish me off. That's fine. Well, what if you suddenly chunked that Latios with Roap Berry, and where is that Roap Berry? There it is. Yeah, and suddenly Latios was chunked into Shadow Sneak range for your Giratina Origin or something. Something else I was thinking of to avoid that kind of situation is Endure with the Custat Berry. So I really just want to, take the options here and go even further with them. Throw Aura Sphere on there if you want. I also mentioned Specs Dialga as an underrated monster. It doesn't have to run... Oh, I didn't even mention EVs yet. It can run max speed, it can run plus special attack, it can go, mid speed, it can go very slow, lots of bulk, lots of EVs in attack and special attack, especially if you're running Outrage. It's really up to you. So I just wanted to mention the many, many options Dialga has. And I haven't even mentioned the coolest of all, which is Trick Room. Because sometimes you think, oh man, it would be so cool if Dialga could boost its speed somehow, besides Choice Scarf, like if it got Rock Polish or something. And this isn't quite the same, but it's also an absolute monster. You can do all sorts of cool stuff with its stats. With its item. White Herb is pretty cool, so you can drop multiple Dracos on people. You get the benefit of a lot of bulk out of it. You can run Adamant Orb. Really, Draco Plate, whatever you'd like. If you want to run 2 Dragon Stabs, that's really effective. You run a Thunder, Aura Sphere, whatever. So yeah, awesome poke. And all these options and many, many more. So please do go out and experiment with those. Like Dialga, I think I just listed something like 15 to 20 sets-ish, probably more, just with all the options we have between its item, its moves, and its EVs in nature. So yeah, go forth. Now, Palkia. This Palkia is... Oh, it's also pretty flexible in terms of its move, or its EVs. But the basic idea is that Palkia is really cool at switching into Kyogre because of that wonderful quad water resist, but it really hates paralysis, not just from Thunder Wave, or from Thunder paralysis, from errant thunders being flung around, rather, but because Kyogre often leads with T-Wave. And it's really difficult for the Lati twins to recover from that because it's really hard for them to fit refresh. Latios fits it a lot better, Latios not so much. I mean, it could, but still kind of sucks either way. And the reason I like this Rest Talk Palkia as a Kyogre answer is not just because it has not just because it has the longevity to switch into Kyogre over and over. It's not vulnerable to pursuit like the Latis. That's a really big one. And because it can shrug off status, but because it's also a very nice makeshift Darkrai answer. It's not a counter by any means, but you can throw it into absorb sleep with Sleep Talk and such, and then switch out without worrying that it's going to blow you up with a Focus Blast on the switch, like, say, is the fear of Scarf Dialga users that switch their Sleep Talk Scarf Dialga into into Darkrai, trying to absorb it. So it's a really nice mish of traits, and thanks to Palkia's nice speed and strong Dragon Stab, it's a threat to a lot of. So you want Thunder as the move most of the time because you want to actually hit Kyogre, especially in your sleep. But I also like Roar. Because phasing is generally helpful, but it lets you, when Kyogre starts calm minding and being a pain, and you might not break through it even with Thunder, with Roar you're safer against it, and it is helpful to get good sleep talks even against Darkrai and Sun, which is a common occurrence, and you also, fast sleep phasing is really fun in general, because of Palkia's good speed, and you have a 66% chance to get a good sleep talk against something like Groudon, for example. So Roar is honestly probably the better option. So I do really like this Palkia, and you can make it slower and bulkier if you want. I generally think teams using Palkia, non-Scarf Palkia rather, they really like its speed to outrun things like mid-game Rayquaza. But if you think you're not seeing a lot of those, then you can go a lot slower. Honestly, I would drop it maybe even to 280, and then you can really bulk it out. Or if you want more power on that Spatial Rend, then you can go to 280 with this and keep the bulk going and still get more bulk. So there's a lot of ways you can run it. In general, it's a very, very cool option. So that's one Palkia, and the second Palkia is inspired by ZF's excellent set. If you watched my video where I used the Sub-Protect Palkia, that one's a real monster. But it, of course, has the issue of not running Thunder, which means it can kind of also be annoyed by Kyogre variants. So this is the same basic premise with Protect, because Leftovers are really good, especially with T-Spikes, and it gives you longevity, and it scouts choice users, which is really, really big. Like Scarf Dialga, no longer have to worry about getting your Jirachi switch Fire Blasted, something like that. The extra lefties are really nice for withstanding Scarf Kyogre over the course of the game, things of that nature. And you have wonderful 2-move coverage still. So, because you have Thunder because the main purpose of the set is to be a Palkia that actually threatens Kyogre, and then you still have that awesome rain-boosted Surf or Hydro, or if you're running this in Sun, Fire Blast. And again, if you could run this in a more offensive direction with Roar. So you're really threatening Kyogre either way. You either immediately threaten it with Thunder, or you phase it out with Roar. So you're still useful even if it starts T-Waving you and then Calm Minding. So I didn't even mention Roar, but it should in the moveset you see. But I would definitely consider that as well. So Palkia's got a really cool offensive-defensive applications that should be considered more. And again, you can run some bulk on it as well. Very effective. Same deal as the last one, pretty much. Although, since you're running Thunder, I would probably not go lower than 308, just in case you run into offensive Calm Mind Kyogre. The timid ones with Lum, those are pretty dangerous, so you would definitely want to. Whereas with this one, if you're running Roar, then you're going to be going second anyway, so you would want more bulk. So with this one, if you're going to be thundering those, then yeah, make it at least 308. And at that point, you may as well hit Rayquaza. But again, up to you. Hell, you can take out a special attack if you really like. This Giratina is an unfinished idea, but I love the idea of it, and I played around with it, like rough draft of some of it, and it performs really well. So the basic idea is that normally you run Giratina Origin for your mid-game spin blocking, shadow sneaking, Draco purposes. Yes, it's very good at that. Levitate, Spikes immunity, Earthquake immunity, very good. What people forget and are sometimes amusingly reminded of when they run into the very rare Scarf Giratina, very fun set, is that regular Giratina is not as offensively inept as it would seem. I mean, everyone thinks Will-O-Wisp, Roar, Rest Hawk, totally passive, hard to KO, but doesn't do much damage in return without a lot of help from hazards. And yes, that's true for the bulky sets, but it's still got good enough offenses, especially when its primary moves, attacking moves, are Shadow Sneak, which is priority, always good, super effective against a lot, and Draco Meteor, which has huge base power, stab, and super effective against all the Tears Dragons. So it's going to be just strong enough for your efforts, and against bulkier stuff, you're not going to be able to break through. That's what Will-O-Wisp is for. Yeah, you're not threatening Spidef Diaga or Jirachi or Bronzong or anything like that, but they will not like a burn at all. So that's a good rule of thumb for Giratina Origin as well. But here's why this set needs to be regular Giratina. So the basic idea is, again, with Giratina and it's like Diaga in that, yeah, you're going to get into a lot of slugfest with opposing dragons, you're going to Draco something, and then you'll be revenge killed by something else, and it's like, alright, fine, Giratina did a lot, probably even got Shadow Sneak chip on the revenge killer, so totally fine. So, and you think, alright, well, Giratina Origin is still, amazing, and you don't mind it getting revenge killed given how much damage it dished out first, which has put you ahead. But what if you could go even further and get even more out of it? And this is where regular or Giratina Altered's bulk comes in, because it is so strong. This is why I don't have a definitive EV spread or even like ideas of them. There's so many things you can calc to live. It's crazy, because things like it's especially helpful with Habenberry, because then you really don't have to EV to live anything, and you can just pour it all in the offenses. But even without the Habenberry, it lives. Just do calcs against Palkia Spatial Rend, and it'll blow your mind. Especially because Giratina Origin is already, with zero investment, Giratina Origin does crazy stuff like live Palkia Spatial Rend after rocks. So just imagine what Giratina Altered can do with investment. It's really astounding. And with that ability to live things, then you turn it into actual offense. Like, for example, Palkia against a defensive Giratina, it's like, well, I'm going to Spatial Rend it because worst case I take a burn or I get phased out. It's not exactly threatening to KO me back, and with this Giratina, then that's exactly what you do. And it's supposed to be used on offensive teams. It's not a stall Pokemon, seemingly obviously, but there you go. So you are able to come in much like regular Giratina does. You don't have that EQ immunity, but you'll still find your way, especially because that fighting immunity, very nice. And, of course, spin blocking. And then you start throwing around your attacks. And, by the way, I should mention that the moveset is flexible as well. If you're not running Custap, then I wouldn't run Destiny Bond. Instead, I would run something like Aura Sphere for Lucario and hitting Diaga without the Draco drop. Yeah, because the idea with Destiny Bond is that with Custap, or without Haben, you're going to barely live a lot of these moves, and you're going to take that Palkia out with Draco Meteor, and then, let's say, Diaga or something comes in afterwards, whatever it might be, and then you Custap and you debond, and you get that really sweet 2-for-1. So that's one idea. That's with that. But with Haben, then you're not going to be suddenly outspeeding the Scarf Kyogre that's finishing you off afterwards. So it's better to just go with Aura Sphere or even Thunder. Thunder would be good as well. You can even throw in Roar, or even drop Will-O-Wisp if you want. Like if you want to keep dragging in opposing Kyogre and getting hazard damage on them and thundering them if they stay in, and still threatening things like Jirachi and Bronzong. So really, a lot of flexibility. The cusp of this set is regular Giratina on offense and using its bulk to live in those back and forth trading slugfests that Giratina Origin would usually be just a little overwhelmed by. Can really give you some nice advantages, so I really recommend playing around with it. And I will skip. Oh, that's actually the music. I thought it was an ad. Alright, it sounded very ad-ish, but now I hear it. Alright, so yeah, this regular Giratina, it's really, really cool. And like most people running Giratina on offense are running things like Sub, Protect, D-Pulse, and then either Calm Mind or Will-O-Wisp. Can be very cool, but can also fall flat against a lot of defensive stuff because all they need is a Skarmory. So with this, then you have a lot of options for Alright, sorry, my microphone was cutting out. But Giratina altered on offense good, besides just the sub-protecting stuff that can be very easily neutered by common defense. So lets you have more flexibility and deal with more things offensively, and not putting all your eggs in that sub-protect automatic win basket. Alright, classic bathroom break time, and then we move on to another awesome Giratina set. You know, there are a lot of movies on YouTube, and I'm not talking like, you know, there are a lot of clips of The Godfather or whatever. I'm talking a lot of really classic movies are just on YouTube in their entirety. Not everything, of course, like The Godfather isn't, as far as I know, but like if you Google, if you just search on YouTube, you know, let's say Blue Velvet, because I watched that one on YouTube, Blue Velvet full movie, it'll often just be there. Someone has uploaded it, and people, and the YouTube people are just like, oh, it's fine. They're, you know, the old movies, or older anyway. And sometimes I'll be watching them, and sometimes there'll be an ad, and I'll be thinking, oh man, stupid ad. It's like, you know, 10 seconds before I can skip and go back to the movie. And then sometimes I catch myself and I say, you know, I just realized I didn't have to pay for this movie. I'm watching it totally legally because it's just on YouTube, freely available for me. And I just complained about waiting 10 seconds for an ad, you know, and, you know, did that. So that's what these bathroom breaks are for you, my kind viewers. I know some people don't like them, but I am not going to start editing them out until I start making much more edit necessary videos, and this kind of video definitely doesn't necessitate an edit. And yeah, I've got to do the dishes after this, so I don't want to spend time editing. Good lord. I have to do the dishes, I have to shower, I have to do work. So, you know those like 5 to 10 minute goofy videos I've done, like 2 of them in the last few months? Those take so much time to edit, and those are like a couple minutes. So I can't even imagine going through this hour-plus long monstrosities and trying to clean them up. And then it takes forever to render, and it's just... Anyway, so now that I've taught you all a valuable lesson in the art of patience, and eliminated those who do not have the patience or the interest, or just those who didn't think to fast forward, which is the easiest solution if you really want to have your cake and eat it too. Let's get back to Giratina, this time the Origin form. So, a Giratina Origin, again, very good at bludgeoning opposing teams with its Draco Meteors and Shadow Sneaks. I've noticed, by the way, some people, when they're calcing with Giratina Origin, they do it all manually, and they think Draco Meteor or Shadow Sneak does less than they actually do, because you have to have Grisius Orb in the calc, because Giratina Origin cannot exist without Grisius Orb, and therefore its Ghost and Dragon Stab always have that 20% power boost. So it's very important. Someone will say, "Oh, you know, Draco Meteor only does 50 to Groudon." It's like put in the Grisius Orb boost. It's actually quite a bit more. So remember that. And speaking of stabs, this of course has the Shadow Sneak and Draco meter that are the staples of most Giratina sets. Shadow Sneak at least, you can run Giratina without Draco, but I haven't seen anyone other than myself run non-Sneak Giratina in, or Origin anyway, in like 7 years or something. And before that, no one was really running, not since Heart Gold and Soul Silver really, because technically, here's a tale from the Stone Age. You have your Calm Mind Giratina, that was the set in the Platinum metagame. Sub, Calm Mind, Dragon Pulse, then Aura Sphere or Shadow Ball. And then Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out and gave it Shadow Sneak, and these mixed sets that are now the standards, they started popping up. But I never forgot that distinction between Calm Mind and the mixed set. And turns out they can actually work very well together. So I still think the Calm Mind without the Shadow Sneak, those Origin sets are still quite good. Because the coverage is really nice. Like, actually, no, I take it back about no one else using that. Because I remember my buddy Jirachi, he had a great team with fast 3-tax Calm Mind Kyogre and fast 3-tax Calm Mind Giratina O. So he had Shadow Ball, Draco Meteor, or Dragon Pulse, if he wanted stab for one thing, but he didn't want the drop. And then Aura Sphere, and that was really nice. So, that set is kind of like this. So, but sometimes you still really want or most times you want the priority of Shadow Sneak. That's a lot of what makes Giratina O as good as it is. So, you can definitely go both ways because Giratina O's coverage is very flexible, since all you need in this last slot is either Thunder or Aura Sphere, and there you have, that's the coverage that standard support Diaga uses and hits pretty much everything. Draco and, Aura or Thunder. Even HP Fire if you're running it on Sun and you really feel so inclined, although I would generally say Aura is probably going to be more reliable in that case. But yeah, on Rain you can run Thunder, you can run Aura in any weather, so lots of stuff it can do. You could probably run, Shadow Ball or Dragon Pulse if you're really so inclined. Although I do like Aura Sphere for the super effective hit on Dialga without the drop necessarily. So why are you running Calm Mind and Draco and Shadow Sneak? Well, the answer to that is that, like we said, Giratina Origin gets, in these bludgeon battles quite a bit, and then it gets revenge killed. Yes, it's very good at living, so things like we already mentioned Palkia Spatial Rend from high health, but with Calm Mind, you make it even harder to break through Giratina. You think, even with no investment, and you can also give it a little investment because it doesn't need to hit a static speed tier or, a power benchmark. You can really, again, mess around with the EVs to your heart's desire. But when you give this bulky monster a special defense boost, then, the strongest Draco Meteors around, they're not going to bounce off, but they're not going to KO, and thus you are going to come out of even more encounters one-on-one, which is what a lot of offense-on-offense games are about. So take the classic example of Dialga switching into Giratina O, and you Calm Mind, and you hit it with a Draco Meteor that's stronger, and that matters because Draco, of course, weakens you, and if you just hit it with the Draco once, then, you're kind of out of luck. And it'll shrug it off and then not threat. And here's the big difference between Draco and EQ. Yes, you can EQ, but Dialga's Draco also threatens to KO you back. With Calm Mind, you are surviving those Dracos now, so you are able to go toe-to-toe with Dialga, and you're able to survive Kyogre or something even more easily. And being able to go one-on-one with Dialga and actually live that Draco in return, and, the Palkia and the Latios and the Kyogre and Mewtwo and everything, it makes such a difference to have that special attack boost on your side, or a special defense boost on your side, and it makes your Draco Meteor even more of a certainty in getting the KO by making yourself stronger and bulkier. So, and again, the coverage usually isn't an issue. So, and if it is, that you can just run a standard mixed Tina O, but it's really nice to have Calm Mind. I really enjoy the set. And another nice thing is that whereas you would have to hit something twice with Draco to get it in Shadow Sneak range, now you Calm Mind, you make yourself stronger and bulkier, so then you live that hit, then you Draco, and then you get the Sneak off and finish them off if they're still alive against something like a faster Dialga, let's say. Whereas if you were Dracoing twice, then you would not necessarily be able to get that second Draco off. Well, not only that, the second Draco would be much weaker, and you probably wouldn't get the target into Shadow Sneak range, and you would probably get KO'd before you could even get the second Sneak off, or the second Draco off, because you don't have that special defense boost in the face of all the super effective special attacks being flung at Giratina O. So, I'll stop before I repeat myself too much more, but this is a really great set. You can run Dragon Pulse. That's also a really nice one, just because the more reliable stab. Dragon Pulse, Aura Sphere, Thunder, those are the ones you should be messing with. But, yeah, great set. Really, really tough to deal with for a lot of offense. Yeah, so the EVs are also flexible, but I would give it special attack investment, or a hefty chunk. Just, get the most out of it. If you're going to be using this, you should at least be hitting things as hard as you can, the rest of your EVs permitting. But it's not something you can slack on. Sneak is more of a benefit. You don't really need the attack investment because you're only running one physical attack, and it's really just to finish off weak things, as well as things like Latios that are going to get KO'd from a certain range anyway. So I wouldn't invest in that. But bulk, speed, special attack, but really just pump the special attack. Anyway, Darkrai, wide lens. This is very simple, but it really makes a difference. Anyone who's used Darkrai can tell you, having to throw around that 80% Dark Void that, you die if you don't hit, can really, really make your heart sink. Going to 88% is just such a huge step up. So, it's simple, but, Darkrai's item is very flexible, and this does a lot for its consistency. Because a lot of teams will go, well, I hope it misses Dark Void, or I hope it misses Focus Blast. So, it's simple, but it really gets the job done. No longer are you really hoping and praying in every conceivable scenario. And it also statistically makes you better against opposing Darkrai, because if you win the speed tie, you are also more favored to hit your Void or Focus Blast or whatever you're going for. So that's nice. But, you can also drop its speed, like I also mentioned in one of my other videos. So, yeah, Will-O-Wisp doesn't have to be the last move. I just picked it because you can also go Nasty Plot if you really want. Or Thunder, or Sucker Punch, or, Ice Beam, Thunder Wave, whatever you like. I just picked Will-O-Wisp because it's also boosted by Wide Lens, and it's a nice option. Ruins Jirachi, Bronzong, Scizor. A good move to throw around in general, just for the chip damage, after you've avoided something. So, yeah, 77% Focus Blast, by the way. My god. If Focus Blast was anything above 70, it'd be so much better. But yeah, with Wide Lens, you can actually use it. So yeah, Wisp or Nasty Plot are the ones I would go for most of the time. Guess you could technically throw around 55% Thunders and Sun if you really want to go that route. But yeah, so next up we have a Pattaya Darkrai, which I forgot to throw EVs on. But yeah, this one's pretty simple. The basic idea is that sometimes Darkrai wants to scout with sub, which can be really nice if you think your opponent's going to sack something on, switch something out and sack that to sleep. Then by getting a sub before you sleep, then that makes it even scarier. And it also wants to boost its special attack, but finding a turn to Nasty Plot can be kind of hard. It can be kind of prediction reliant. Darkrai is not the bulkiest of Pokemon, so with Pattaya Berry, you just make it a lot easier for yourself. And a Darkrai with a special attack boost can really run away with the game, and you pair that with the security of getting a substitute up. So you don't have to use it immediately. You can Void, then come back in later in the game, sub down when the opposing team is weakened, and then you really bowl them over. Or it can just activate without you even having to sub into it, if you're just switching in and out of hazards and like light chip, like Giratina O Shadow Sneak, things like that. So I used this set in a tournament game once, and it was really, really effective because you just pepper the opponent all game long, and then later in the game, you have that special attack boost without, the restrictions of choice specs or anything silly, and you do it without needing a turn for it, necessarily. And Substitute also kind of bypasses the whole needing a turn thing because Darkrai is really fast, and subbing is not needing a turn in the same vein as Nasty Plot is. Because let's say you can sub down to your special attack boost in front of a non-Scarf Kyogre. You can't Nasty Plot for a special attack boost in front of a non-Scarf Kyogre. So, not freely. So yeah, that's Darkrai. Simple, but really good. Again, you'll notice a lot of this stuff is in the little details, but those little details are enough to make a significant difference in battles, as I stress in my videos a lot. I mean, look at this Giratina. I mean, you throw in, let's say, Thunder here, and then you could take out the Calm Mind and throw in, Earthquake or, Outrage or whatever, and you would have a standard mixed Tina O. But then adding the Calm Mind, yes, it's a small difference in the grand scheme of things, but reinventing the wheel, especially in old metagames, is, usually not something, especially because a lot of the good options a lot of the more drastic good options have already been explored, but it's finding new ways to put spins, interesting, unique, usable, viable, good spins on the established standards. Those are what change games. You don't have to, bring, Leafeon to Ubers and somehow revolutionize the tier in order to get an advantage on your opponents or just have a good team. Much as I would love Leafeon to tear up Ubers because it's one of my favorite evolutions. So, same thing with the Palkia. I mean, this Palkia is literally just taking ZF's Sub Protect set and changing Sub to something else, and it already makes a big difference in how it plays. So, but the same core concept is the same, and that's good because the core concept is really good. These are really important things to keep in mind. And I mean, Stealth Rock Scarf Diaga, another example. All right, Groudon, Custap Berry. This one's simple. This one I actually have a claim for. I don't think anyone was using this before I used it in tournament around 3.5 years ago. And now my bragging's over, promise. But yeah, this is really nice. Groudon takes a lot of hits throughout a game. You can run it any way you want. You can go all-out defensive, impish, or careful. Careful makes it really nice because, again, there are a lot of Draco Meteors in this tier. You can run all-out offensive, which I really like because its Stab Earthquake is one of the few things that truly puts fear in Dialga. And you can run Adamant on it. You can run Jolly on it. I think Adamant is generally my preference, but yeah. Whatever moves you like. Thunder Wave, Dragon Claw, Lava Plume, whatever you like. So it's really just the Custap Berry. And, I mean, offensive Stealth Rock Groudon is underrated in general, whether it's Earth Plate or Leftovers or Lum or whatever. But Custap is just really something, I mean, for the same reasons on Darkrai. You get knocked into low health a lot, and having that Custap is, I mean, it saved me when I brought it in that one game. So, and it generally has a lot of use, because it's easy to pivot Groudon into it. Because it's the same idea with Diaga. Oh, it's taking a lot of hits and it's dishing them out, but it's not the fastest thing in the world. So once it's at low health, and you're able to dance around it, and suddenly you can Dragon Claw Latios and win the game because of it. So yeah, that's Custap Groudon for you. Simple, again, up to you. I'm leaving a lot of these blank because it's up to your team and your choices. So here's one that's a little more out there. As for the EVs, it's the same as the Scarf Dialga. You can outrun Mewtwo with it, or you can go, Jolly, but I generally prefer Adamant with Bulk. And this also applies to Scarf Kyogre, by the way. I should mention that. I also like Modest and some Bulk on Scarf Kyogre. Or you can go, if you're going to go Timid on these Scarfers, you can go max speed and get the 90 tie and all that, or outrun a lot of the slower ones. Yes, it's very nice. But I also like dropping speed really low on the Timid ones and getting a lot more bulk out of them. Because, again, this tier has a lot of slugfests going on, and being able to survive something that you normally wouldn't, big game changer. That's the entire idea between Calm Mind on Giratina O. Yeah, Scarf Groudon I think is really cool. And it can run Stealth Rock very effectively, and that actually ups the surprise factor even more. So I enjoy it. And you can, Stone Edge or, Fire Move, whatever you want. Scarf Thunder Wave is hilarious, but this is just an example. So, having that fast Earthquake can be really, really nice, because, I mean, Garchomp already has a very strong Stab Earthquake, and then Groudon makes it look like a UU Pokemon in comparison. So, yeah, Scarf Groudon, it's kind of, let me put it this way, its greatest trait is not being an amazing Scarfer itself, but in letting your other Pokemon run sets besides Scarf. So if you're running a bunch of guys like Dialga and Palkia and Kyogre, and you really want to run, Lustrosword Palk and Specs Dialga and, offensive Calm Mind Kyogre, and you don't want to slap a Scarf on any of them, then you can slap it on Groudon, and it'll still have good results. That's the basic idea. Freeing up your other Pokemon to not run Scarf. And that is really, really big, because you're going to want speed somewhere on your team, but you also need wall breaking potential, and you don't want to be pigeonholed into one thing necessarily. And this thing, of course, also has a ton of surprise factor, especially when it pops up rocks. Hey, you don't know if it's going to be Custap Stealth Rock, or if it's going to be Scarf Stealth Rock. but it's really cool, and it's good even if you know it's Scarfed, because it's still a Groudon, and the freedom it allows your teammates in being the greatest wall breakers on the planet, as opposed to, you know, running Scarf Kyogre and losing a lot of threat, is it's a really big deal. And also, unlike Scarf Kyogre, it's actually an even better check to Scarf or to SD Lucario than Garchomp, because it's got that great bulk, and most Lucario are not going to try to E-speed it. So, but it can take those +2 E-speeds really nice. And just being able to threaten out Latios with Dragon Claw is just really great. So yeah, Scarf Groudon, really cool. These two, the Band Rayquaza and Chomp, I'm kind of lumping together. They're not really similar, it's just that we don't have a lot of Band Outrage in this tier, and the Band Chomp has Fire Fang Slash with Swords Dance, because you can also do Life Orb. And I'll start with Chomp. The basic idea is that Chomp, whether it's running Lum or Habin or Scarf or whatever, sometimes you do notice that it has a much lower base offensive stat than the rest of its Ubers brethren. Now, it's still an amazing Pokemon, it's still very strong, it's hitting things super effectively, of course, and, you know, it's got that amazing stab combination and speed, which is what makes it so threatening. But sometimes you really notice it, like when you Dragon Claw Giratina O and it just bounces off, or when you have to lock into Outrage to finish off Giratina O, or when you're just barely coming up short against Kyogre and all sorts of stuff. So, with Band, then you make up for the shortcoming. Now, of course, you have the same problem Scarf does, and suddenly people are trying to counter you with resistances, and that's why I wanted to slash Life Orb in there, because it does wonders for the power boost, and you are no longer countered by Jirachi coming in on your Dragon Claw. But I do want to stress the emphasis, or the importance of the power boost, for sure. And Expert Belt would get the job done too, really. But yeah, it's very important to sometimes run a Garchomp that can boost its power without needing a turn for Swords Dance. Yes, Sub and Swords Dance on the Switch, and very good set. But you're not going to be... You can't get that instant power when you have that one-on-one face-off against Dialga even. I mean, Dialga devours its Earthquakes way better than you'd think it would. So... the power boost is really critical in a lot of times. So Choice Band, Life Orb, or even just E-Belt. Again, Chomp's item, flexible, these little things make a big difference. E-Belt might even be best. You might even fool some people with the item choice, because they're not going to be, you know, their brain might automatically go to Band after they see boosted damage or an unexpected KO. So, and you're not showing them Life Orb. So definitely try these out. And Band Rayquaza is more simple because it's not really about the power in the one-on-one situation as much as it is having that banded E-speed, so kind of having it both ways. It is a surprisingly adept cleaner for the same reasons SD Lucario is, and with SD Ray, then you don't love Life Orb recoil and not being as strong as you can be. You want that instant, you know, get it in and start KOing stuff power. And, of course, you have incredible burst one-on-one damage when you're facing down a Dialga and it's not expecting you to hit it with a banded EQ, and sometimes it'll just drop. So, that's a real... Band Rayquaza is a very simple poke, but also really dangerous. And it's also really nice against something like Kyogre, the offensive sets, who will boost themselves with Calm Mind and standard Mix Ray. Even if it does run Outrage, then it's not going to have investment, because Mix Ray runs Special Attack and Speed investment, and you know it's Outrage. It's still going to be very strong, but it's not going to quite have the same nuclear melting potential that Banded Outrage does. So being able to just forcibly delete Pokemon as instantly as Band Outrage does from Ray is wonderful. And you can, of course, throw around Dragon Claws early in the game, and having that freedom of E-speed late in the game, just the damage it does to things like Darkrai is absolutely incredible. And E-speed is good on Mix Ray in general, too, but again, lack of attack invest and Life Orb, as opposed to full attack invest and Choice Band. So, you know, the Scarf Kyogre, Palkia, Darkrai, and Mewtwo stuff with some spikes down and chip damage, really nice. It's a great partner to Giratina O with Shadow Sneak, because this way you're keeping pretty much every part of the offensive metagame in check without relying on Scarfers. So, and of course, Rayquaza's Choice Lock is abusable as well, but the E-Speed is something else that keeps something else in check regardless of speed, as opposed to something like Scarf Diaga not keeping DD Ray in check, for example. Alright, now we go to the non-Uber pokes. So this is your Garden Variety Scarftar. I'm an EV freak, so I dropped its speed down to 351 with the Scarf, aka outrunning the Lottie Twins because you don't need to go any faster. You can make it faster if you want. You know, it would be stupid if someone experimented with the Starmie and you were like, whoops, my Scarftar didn't outspeed that. But yeah, that's standard Scarftar for you. It's really good. I mean, regular T-Tars and Ubers are like the Lum and the Sash, and I have the... that's another video with underrated sets, the lead metagame, because I go over a lot of underrated stuff in that one, so check that one out as well if you're looking for more underrated stuff besides just the DPP Ubers, the UPL video. So, but yeah, mid-game Scarftar, good as ever. I mean, there are Lottie Twins everywhere. It's good against Giratina O, and it's just generally nice to have the speed against... The only reason I really like Stone Edge, now I generally prefer Ice Punch, because this lets you actually check, you know, things like Hab and Chomp one-on-one, but I am really coming around on Stone Edge because of the neutral power. This lets you actually KO things like half-health offensive Kyogres and Palkias, so I do actually think Stone Edge is the better option, and, you know, just deal with Garchomp some other way, which you should be doing anyway. But, yeah, it's good. Superpower knocks the stuffing out of Diaga. It's actually a good Draco switch that actually outspeeds the Draco pokes and pursuits, you know, the Lottie Twins. Careful around about switching it into Grass Knots, but because then the pursuit crunch game gets harder. But yeah, in general, just chunking in with the pursuit will generally get the job done. Be smart about it, obviously. And the speed is really nice because it lets you check things like Kingdra and Kabutops without, you know, it actually lets you check them and beat them, or chase them out at least, without necessarily having to sack something else before you can send in your faster poke. Like when you send in a slow T-Tar against a Kingdra, then either T-Tar dies if you stay in, or you have to sack something else before you go to your fast poke. But with Scarftar, you just chase it out. So, really great to have. Just good speed in general for the tier. You know, checks Mixed Rayquaza, checks SD Lucario really well as well, because they're never running Bullet Punch in Ubers. They need Crunch too badly. So, yeah. Quagsire is not a new entity in Ubers. It's a great Kyogre answer, great for Thunders and, you know, shrugging off Dracos and stuff like that. But the thing about this Quagsire is the standard move in the last slot is Encore. And I believe Emerald has played around with Protect, but I really like the idea, and I think it should be standard, because Encore's main use is preventing Sub-Kyogre from destroying you. However, Sub-Kyogre does not really truly exist, and truth be told, it's not a very good set. Now, if Blissey Stall was absolutely everywhere, it'd be a different story. But Blissey Stall struggles to keep up, and there's still better options for ripping through Blissey, because they're paired with Lottie Twins anyway, so Sub-Combine Kyogre isn't really getting you any far. So in no case is Sub really a move you want or need on Kyogre. So, with that in mind, you can run Protect on Quagsire, and Quaggy's just going to become immortal. I mean, talk about it's going to shrug Dracos even better because you're getting free 6% after the -2. So you're really just healing off everything, switching into Palkias and all that. Oh, I don't know why this has pressure. It should have Water Absorb. I don't know how that happens. But, yeah, Protect on Quag is really good. And obviously Toxic and whatnot. But I can't stress enough, Quag is a Pokemon that walls the Ubers by the skins of its teeth. And with Protect, you really give yourself a lot of leeway. So, especially with all the spikes that are everywhere. So suddenly you're really checking Giratina O and Palkia and Diaga really well. So, yeah, Quag, really good. Protect, definitely nice. And you should have another method for dealing with something like Rest Kyogre, other than, you know, because it's going to get PP stalled by Quag. But yeah, that shouldn't be hard to deal with a sleep-talking Kyogre with other pokes, because it will only have Surf in that scenario. So, yeah, Quag, awesome. Protect, really good on it. Doug, Night Slash and Pursuit are just so it can pretend to do something to Giratina O. They really don't matter. Run Toxic on it if you want, or Stealth Rock, or Stone Edge, doesn't matter. The main moves, well, Sucker Punch is nice because this way you kind of have like a Wobbuffet effect in that you're able to finish off things like Scarf Palkia and Kyogre that aren't locked into Thunder. I should mention that part of what makes Doug such an effective trapper is that there are a lot of choice Thunders in this tier, and Doug will eliminate them, meaning it even eliminates Scarfers a lot of the time. So really nice with Protect, especially for actually, if you have a Protect on a teammate, then you can switch to Doug without fearing it dying at the time. But it has a good speed tier, great speed tier even. Run Adamant, you're not out doing anything to the Lotties with these, you just run Adamant, get the damage. And you are able to remove Diaga really nicely with that Adamant Banded EQ. And it's just generally nice, again, for finishing off things like weakened offensive Kyogres. And Palkias, of course, because you still outrun those, even outruns Garchomp. So, generally a nice mid-game poke to have. You remove choiced or Scarfed Thunders. You're good against most of the offensive metagame. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's simple, but for some teams, it's kind of like a more aggressive Wobbuffet that directly, messes with, or directly removes Diaga more effectively, rather than like encoring it into rocks and then, something stupid happening. Or, it getting to be too weak from Draco spam for you to mirror coat it to death. So, dumb stuff like that. Yeah, it's not for every team. We're getting into the niche stuff now, but yeah. Speaking of not for every team, Abomasnow is, in a nutshell, like a worse Quagsire or Ludicolo, because it answers Kyogre really well. It does that. But it also is Stealth Rock weak, so it takes a lot more support. But the unique thing about Abomasnow is, of course, Hail, and there are no ice types in Ubers. There's like the occasional lead Cloyster, that's it. And so you're chipping everything with Hail, and there's no common Leech resist in Ubers either. There's Shaman Sky, who doesn't want to deal with Ice Shard, so you are chipping things really, really fast with Abomasnow. That's its strength. You come into Kyogre, you start leeching things, and with Hazard support, the opposing team is getting worn down uncomfortably quickly. It's also got a great Thunder resist, so very niche, but being able to mess with the opponent's weather is nice, and you really wear them down, so very unique, but yeah. Cresselia is like a Lugia that is not Stealth Rock weak, and this lets it hit the field a lot more easily. Now, the EVs are kind of flexible, and so is the last move slot. It can be Reflect, or HP Fire, or Grass Knot for hitting things like Kyogre and Groudon, hitting Groudon harder than Ice Beam. So, hell, you could fit Lunar Dance on it. That would be unique. I'm even going to advocate for that the most. Then you really do something Lugia can't do. But yeah, without the Rock's weakness, then you are able to pivot into Draco Meteors a lot more easily. And with Moonlight, you heal a lot more in a given turn. You use this on Sun, obviously, with Groudon. So you are able to pivot into attacks. You take less coming in, and you heal more damage off. Obviously, Kyogre's Rain puts a damper on that, but you would welcome Kyogre coming in because you're going to Toxic it. So, yeah, Cress is, again, unique, and or like more niche rather, but it does have a very unique niche. I used to be more of a Heracross guy when it came to the former UU, or formerly UU in the case of Heracross, the fighting type that switches into Darkrai and deals with its sleep somehow. But I've really come around on Primeape because of U-Turn, which is really nice. U-Turn and the speed tier. Heracross can outrun Scarf Dialga and Kyogre, whereas Primeape can. And Primeape has U-Turn to keep up momentum. So, very, very niche, but this thing absorbs Darkrai's Dark Void and U-Turns out for momentum, as opposed to Heracross, who just like thuds into Giratina Origin or something. So, good interim Darkrai switch, good late game cleaner, really fun poke. Punishment for Calm Mind Lotties, but it could probably be stuff like Encore. So yeah, that's that. Now, Ludicolo, Swift Swim Ludicolo is not used. Rain Dishes. The common Swift Swimmers are Kingdra and Quillfish. Quillfish for its Toxic Spikes immunity, as well as Explosion. Or, not immunity, Absorption. Omastar is the forgotten Swift Swimmer because it's a lot slower, so you're not outrunning Scarfers. I mean, with this you outrun Mewtwo, but that's fine. The main reason you run Omastar is power. It makes Specs Kingdra look like absolutely nothing. It melts the opposing team. Now, you need a good defensive core with it because, again, you really got to be able to switch into those Scarfers because it's not exactly a one-for-one Kingdra replacement because half of Kingdra's strength is destroying Scarf Pokemon, whereas Omastar does not. but Omastar is a very unique blend of outrunning non-scarfed offensive Pokemon like your Mewtwo's and your Darkrai's, and making it really hard for resists like opposing Kyogre to switch in. The Hydro is just unbelievably strong, and you also have a big Earth power for really slamming Dialga. So yeah, unique, worth trying on Swift Swim teams. Did I say Kabutops as one of the Swift Swimmers? I feel like I didn't for some reason. It's Kingler, Kabutops, and then Quillfish. Yeah, those are the big three Swift Swimmers, and then Ludicolo is used as a rain dish poke. So, yeah. Alright, and that's pretty much it. I have Ho-Oh here, but this is more of a teaser for the next video than anything else because I have been playing around with Ho-Oh a lot, and I loved it so much that I wanted to make a video dedicated entirely to the often overlooked but absolutely incredible Ho-Oh and DPP Ubers, so that'll be the next thing. And depending on when you're watching this, it might be available already. So, yeah, this is... Wow, we haven't even hit an hour. That's amazing. I must be dreaming or something. Even with a lengthy bathroom break and then sermon about patience. So, I guess since... Is there anything else underrated that we could bring? I was going through these before the video started, and I was wondering if some other fun stuff. Alright, we may as well mention something else fun. This is not the most serious Lugia set, but at the same time, it's not a total joke either. Like we mentioned earlier, fast phasing in your sleep is really dangerous, and this is... Whew, I mean, it's not a Darkrai absorber or anything, and it's but it's actually pretty easy to get to work because there's rocks everywhere, so you're never going to really be at full health. And then you sleep, and then you start phasing. I mean, get a lot of spikes. Do not put all your eggs in the Deoxys Speed basket. Get your spikes with Deoxys Speed and get your rocks elsewhere, and then revel in phasing everything around. It's crazy obnoxious, crazy hard to bring down, because it's so fast. It outruns the Lotties. Or, sorry, no, it ties with the Lotties, and a lot of Lotties don't run max speed. You know, Latios likes a lot of bulk and a lot of special attack and a lot of speed, but not max, and Latios tends to run Hidden Power Fire a lot, although it runs max speed without Hidden Power Fire quite a lot more. But, yeah, it's still a really fast speed tier to be in, so this set is really, really cool, and it's a lot of fun. I really like it. I was recently talking to Camsil about U-Turn Manaphy. It also has U-Turn and knockoff, so I think there's some potential for a bulky set of some kind, because it's a great Darkrai answer. Now that's a reason to run Thunder on Darkrai, preventing Manaphy from becoming a check to you. So U-Turn on it. I think even like a Tail Glow Surf Rest set, or Calm Mind, even that can use U-Turn, because you come into Darkrai, and rather than thud into a Lottie or a Groudon, then you U-turn out and maintain momentum. So I do think U-turn on Manaphy has a ton of potential, even without like going pure support. So I would recommend playing around with and Calm Mind, so you live Surfs or Thunders and stuff. You don't need the extra special attack boost. But yeah, I would definitely look into this set with a lot of bulk. So yeah, I think that has a lot of potential. And Scarf Mewtwo is just an underrated set in general because it outruns the Swift Swimmers, and it has it's a great late game cleaner because it gets all the jump. It gets the jump on all the other Scarfers by a mile. Has all the coverage you could want, and has self-destruct to take down pretty much anything. So yeah, Scarf Mewtwo, not necessarily an unseen Pokemon, but one that should be used more. Specs Dialga, well, we mentioned Specs Dialga, but Specs Palkia is also really underrated. People tend to kind of sleep on Palkia's power. So even just putting Draco Meteor on Scarf Palkia can really throw people for a loop because they think, oh, Scarf Palkia runs Spatial Rend as its Dragon Stab. And it should, always. But then you also throw Draco in there, and a Lottie that thought it could take it suddenly doesn't. Or a Giratina O. But then there's Specs Palkia, which really, I mean, just devours people. Lustrous Orb is also absolutely vicious in Rain. Yeah, Shaman Sky can run Modest pretty decently on an all-out attacker set. Seed Flare, Earth Power, Air Slash, and then a Hidden Power of some sort, usually Ice. And Expert Belt is really nice on it, so I would run that, Modest Expert Belt for attacks. Salamence, I don't know about Mence, it's just the DD thing just never works out for me. As nice as Intimidate is, that might require, that's more testing, that's where you guys come in. And anything, I think that's more or less it. I mean, what I thought about once was Bronzong is really nice, but it also kind of has a tendency to not do much to the opponent unless they're running a really fragile offense team. So running something like Iron Ball, with Rocks, Trick, Iron Ball, and then 2 attacking moves. So you're really hindering the opponent, especially if they're bringing defense, but even like a mid-range balance team would be annoyed by it. But that nothing concrete really came of that. Yeah, there's other cool stuff like Gliscor is really underrated. Clefable is really underrated in DPP Ubers, but that's a whole nother video. The super underrated guys. So whereas these, Infernape is pretty cool. It's got a great speed tier, and stab close combat is really dangerous, and you know the Diaga tier, and you U-turn out of Giratina O, which is really, you bait Giratina O like the plague and you U-turn out of it. Same with the Lotties, except they get destroyed by U-turn itself, whereas you can U-turn into a Pursuiter or just get a free Draco Bomb off. So, and of course in Sun, Flare Blitz is vicious, and changing the weather on Infernape is not easy because Kyogre does not enjoy banded close combats. So I would recommend a banned Infernape as well. Banned Mach Punch is also nice for checking Lucario, Scarf Dialga. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm pretty sure I went over this once before. Oh, Magnezone is good. In Rain, you trap Dialgas with Hidden Power Ground. It's really nice. And I really do think that is it. There's probably some room for Starmie, but I haven't really found it. And Lead Weavile with Fake Out Beat Up stuff is kind of gimmicky, but that was more for the leads thing. Alright guys, I think that's pretty much everything, so thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoy the wonderful tier that is DPP Ubers, and I hope you get out there and build your own teams, because that is really how you get the most out of this game. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time.